Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Finally back, finally making videos once a week, so I'm really excited about that. Some cool stuff coming on in the pipeline. But anyway, today we're here to talk about the top 5 reasons that smartwatches still kind of suck in mid-2014. And this is a kind of a touchy subject, and make sure you watch the companion video with this 5 reasons why smartwatches are kind of awesome right now. So without further ado, we're just going to dig straight into it, and we'll go into number 5. So number 5 is they're just not user-friendly enough yet. And I know that if you or I watching this video were to pick up a smartwatch like a Pebble or any Android Wear device, we'd be able to navigate through it just fine. It's rather intuitive for us because we're kind of the tech crowd, but the average consumer, they just wouldn't know any better, and you have to make something that's going to be intuitive for them. And as time goes on and technology evolves, stuff is getting a little bit easier for the average consumer to use, but it's still a little confusing because not everybody knows how, say, material design or the Google Now cards work. It's something that developers in time are going to get better with, and consumers in time are going to learn a little better with. That's one of the major flaws to many smartwatch designs. In this case, I'm talking about Android Wear, which is pretty fresh and kind of a niche product at the time. And so are smartwatches in general, and that's one of their hidden downfalls at the moment too. So number 4 is the hardware just isn't quite there yet. And what I mean by this is every night before you go to bed, more than likely you plug in your phone, and then in the morning you pull it off the charger. If you're one of the few who has Google Glass, you probably do the same thing. Now you throw another device into the mix, a smartwatch, yet another thing to have on the charger. It's just annoying. When we hear smartwatches, we want something that's going to last 2 and 3 days and still be able to perform as we want them to. So that's something that developers and manufacturers alike really need to work on, not just because it's something consumers want, but just because that's the evolution. And this goes for smartphones also. And as time goes on, they are getting better with this, and we're finally very slowly starting to see some better battery life, some new battery technologies, some much better battery optimization. So again, with time, this is all going to improve. But again, one of the top 5 things that really it's just bringing smartwatches down right now. Things like the Pebble, they have pretty good battery life, all things considered, but then again, the functionality is much more limited when you compare it to something like Android Wear or the upcoming rumored iWatch. So another thing to keep an eye out for, we just one of those things we gotta pray and hope for. Number 3, and this is a pretty big one, they're just too expensive for the average consumer. Why would an average consumer want to go out and spend $200 probably at a minimum for a smartwatch that they don't know how to use, that's sort of kind of ugly compared to other watches, and that more than likely all they're going to do is use to tell the time and show off to their friends? It just doesn't make sense for them, and for most people, honestly. So that's another kind of a ding or a strike that manufacturers are going to have to work on. And yes, they're in it to make a profit also, we have to recognize this, but it's really, if you have such a niche product and such a small market, the best way that you can expand it is by making it more affordable. Things like the very original Galaxy Gear finally going down to like $100 now. That's what you need. That's the kind of stuff to really open it up so people can be like, huh, this is actually kind of cool. And it's always just that first step. Number 2, there's just kind of ugly. Now, this might change once the Moto 360 comes into play. We don't really know too much about it. We don't know how much it's going to be. We don't really know for sure how big it's going to be. It looks kind of big. We don't know if it's going to add any functionality. We don't know if the things in this list that I'm talking about right now are not even going to apply to the Moto X. It might be relatively affordable. It's pretty good looking from what we've seen. It might pack some extra functionality. We just don't know. And that's the biggest thing about it. Until then though, we really don't have many good looking smartwatches. Sure, the Gear Live and the LG G Watch are okay looking, but you look at it and it's not a typical watch. Same goes for the Gear and the Gear 2. They're just weird looking by the standard of a normal consumer. They don't, if they see a regular watch on your wrist, they're not going to question it, but if they see that, then they're going to be like, well, what is that? And you're going to get questions asked. And some people may like the attention and some people don't. But the fact is, I personally think it's something that should really be able to blend in and not stand out. It should have functionality and fashion while maintaining a good balance between both. And finally, the number 1 reason why smartwatches just aren't there yet in 2014 is they're just not smart enough yet. They're way too reliant on our smartphones. Now, I'm not saying that I want a cellular connection in my smartwatch, because I don't, because then that's going to cost more fees and I'm going to have to get a new number and just all kinds of crap that I don't want, unless they manage to somehow make it so you can just pop your SIM from one to another. But that's not something I care to get into right now. They're just not smart enough yet. They depend too heavily on phones. Now, if you were to ask a typical consumer what their definition of a smartwatch would be, they would probably say it can receive and make calls. I could probably play and or control music off of it. I can do cool voice things with it, and I can send text from it. And I don't know that there's a single watch on the market right now that can actually do all those things. And as time progresses and the platforms evolve, we will be able to. And we've already seen stuff like Flexi and Minuum. They have keyboards in the works for Android Wear. And those are going to be the real kickers. Being able to fully respond for a text message right on your watch is going to be not only a novelty, but something really useful, because the whole purpose of a smartwatch is to make it so you don't have to pull your phone out every 5 seconds and get lost in it and get lost in the internet, because that's what happens. Inevitably, you receive a message and then you think of something and you're like, oh, let me check that out. And then an hour later, you're on Facebook or some other social media site and there's an hour of your day gone. So they really need to be able to implement better standalone features and making it so you don't have to be so dependent on your smartphone. I think you should be connected to it, but I don't necessarily think that the smartphone should be at the core if you're going to be paying a couple $100s for a device that's supposed to be able to handle a lot of those actions. And that's my list of the top 5 things that kind of suck with smartwatches right now. Again, please make sure you watch the companion video, top 5 things that are great about smartwatches right now. And as time goes on, like I've said a couple times already, things are gonna get better. It's just how it works. It's just how technology evolves. Until then, we're kind of stuck with what we have right now. But feel free to let me know in any way, shape, or form in the comments or messages or whatever. What do you think smartwatches need to improve on? What do you think they do pretty well? I'm curious. I don't think I'm right by any means, but this is just my opinion. Make sure you let me know. Please, if you haven't, it'd be awesome if you would subscribe or give us a thumbs up. And as always, I'll see you in future videos. Thanks for watching.